Hey everyone, Sari here, and welcome back to another week of Astro Season offense matches. It's been quite a while since I gave Kronya a turn on my offense teams, and the Bolt Tower's bonus week was a great chance to let her stretch her legs again. She's been a really reliable carry for my Astro teams ever since her debut. Her unique vantage condition lets her put her surprising bulk to really good use, either by shrugging off the odd Hardy Bearing user, or by brute forcing her way through sturdy opponents that she isn't able to one-shot. Combining Special Spiral with Ruptured Sky gives Kronya a significant boost to her damage output, and it's not hard for her to charge it up by attacking some key defenders before the Vantage Sweep begins. Fatal Smoke is another important tool in her kit, giving her a much easier time navigating around enemy healing towers, and healers as well. Having Naga as a bonus unit also made team building pretty flexible, letting me give Kronya 2 non-mythic supports. Yuri is a great support unit thanks to the combination of his mobility with Disarm Trap. Peony is a great way to offer Kronya cross-map attack bonuses, and having a second Dancer gives her a lot of openings to dismantle an enemy team's major threats. Thor is a really convenient way to help Kronya fully charge Ruptured Sky, while also being able to contribute a lot of extra attack support if necessary. I also had a second Kronya team for the week, which switched out Yuri for Fallen Takumi. Being able to land some extra free damage over a couple of turns can really help against teams that dodge or mostly dodge the Bolt Tower, and the panic effect it applies at the same time can be invaluable against teams that use visible buffs. Now that we've gone over the teams, let's get to the first match. This match will be a fun way to start the week. It's been a while since I used Kronya, so it's fun to see her going up against this plus 10 maxed out Marth in the very first match. This is a bit of an arena build for him more than an ARD specific setup, but this weapon still makes him an extremely large ball of stats, especially when he's also being boosted up by 3 different mythics. And that can make him a very hard unit to handle if you don't have an appropriate blue or counter unit to deal with him. Outside of Marth, it is mostly an in-season legendary squad, with Sigurd and Eitri and Lina all as backup. They do make a pretty impressive array of threats to deal with, although putting the Quickened Pulse Sigurd and Marth, whose Shining Emblem is a big source of his threat, in the same column does expose them pretty heavily to Elimine and False Start, and likewise it's easy enough to False Start Oder and Lilina and prevent both of their pre-charged specials from happening on the first turn. We're not going to aim for that approach, though. They don't actually snipe our Bolt Tower, so this one's going to go to Kronya, at least assuming I figured this out correctly. We're going to take this in the first couple of turns just to open up some structures and test some traps. Oh wow, and Yuri got to test both of the real traps in one turn. That's really useful actually, and while I was planning on testing this next turn, it means we don't have to worry about it anymore. But we'll probably go ahead and do it anyway. And I don't think we're actually going to break this healing tower, since Fatal Smoke on Kronya means she doesn't need to worry about it at all.
Time to kill?
We'll just wait a turn, and continue setting up next round. From here, we can actually have Yuri move up here and break this snow fam that's pretty specifically left up to make sure that he could Kanto all the way back here. Then we'll dance him, move Thor over here, and have Yuri move this way, and then have Plumeria break this gate and wait one more turn for Bolt Tower to activate. And from here we can get things going. We're repositioning Kronya forwards here and getting danced by Peony means that she can fully recharge her Ruptured Sky in this first combat, while also applying some more chip damage to Marth. Then we'll dance Kronya, have Yuri foul play Plumeria into a safer spot, and then back up. Kronya's going to just move over this way and break Oder.
You're in my way.
And then we can have Thor move over here and, again, just not bother breaking this healing tower. And from here we should actually have a pretty easy time vantaging our way through their team. Funnily enough, Lilinas Hardy Bearing actually goes offline if her health is low, so we don't even have to worry about that. And I'll just say go. Yep. Marth comes in to rally, but that's not really going to do his team any good. Kronya actually would have been able to survive Lilina, even if the Hardy Bearing is still online. And, well, nobody else is going to get a chance to do damage to her at all.
You fool.
Tree goes down there. I think Edelgard attacks next, and since he doesn't get a chance to actually use his special, nobody actually gets the extra movement. And, well, an effective damage Ruptured Sky is not going to end well for Saros.
Just a nuisance.
And that just leaves our Marth. And since Marth is actually a lot less spooky without any allies nearby, we should be able to actually clean this up this turn, and actually ended up regretting moving Naga over a tile here, since it means we actually end up having to use the Geodance if we want to pull this off. That's okay though. I think it's fair when they only have Marth left. We'll just have Yuri move here, Geodance him, and move him this way to break the pot, and normal dance him, have him pick up the second pot, and then get Kronya fully online to knock out Marth and close out the match.
Guess you wanna die.
That was a fun one to start both things off with. Let's see what we get next. This match is a less than threatening one. Having a boxed-in setup never really does the defending team any favors, and, well, in this case it just lines them up very neatly for a bolt tower shot. They do protect this formation with two different safe armors, which is pretty useful, and the Zephyrin in the corner is a lot more threatening to a Kronya clear than he might seem at first, thanks to the combination of Odd Recovery and Restore. Odd Recovery actually has the fun perk of neutralizing Fatal Smoke and then also healing his teammates for 20 hit points, and since it also activates the same turn as the Bolt Tower does, it's pretty important to make sure that he gets knocked out before we set up our Vantage Sweep. The Catria in the corner here is an interesting choice. She's not actually affecting Saros or Mirabilis, and while Henriette does get to cover her entire team from this tile, there is a chance that she actually ends up swapping her way around this formation even without structures being broken, and exposing her team to a lot more threat than they might want. The unequipped Mirabilis is a nice way to avoid her getting baited, but her weapon is actually really useful for tipping fights in her team's favor, so I'm not really a fan of taking it off. I don't think we're going to have too many issues here. It should be a pretty straightforward clear. The only thing I want to do is make sure that we don't activate the map early by potentially having someone in Lakern's threat range. Even though she can't attack, it would stop the safety fence from activating. And I'd rather not have Henriette swap around the map or give Zephyrin extra restores to activate this Earth Water Bomb, so we're just going to play it safe. We'll spend these first couple of turns just clearing out structures and setting up for our Vantage Sweep. And thankfully Yuri's really good at just handling these traps for us, finding real ones,
I'll do it.
and opening things up for us.
A new dawn. Yeah.
Now that we've found both traps, it should be pretty straightforward from here. From here, we're going to let Yuri pick up the second Aether Pot, then just have him wait in place here. Edelgard can't actually reach him with Saros and Mirabilis in the way, and there's no way for Henriette to ever swap Edelgard into position to attack, even if she does, which I'm not sure she will. And putting Yuri here is important so that we bait the debuff from Whimsical Dream away from hitting Kronya, since we don't want her to have to deal with that while attacking into Henriette next turn. Then we'll just wait and say go. Edelgard gets danced, Zephyr's going to heal somebody, and no swaps happen. And from here we can get things going. Thor's going to open this bolt tower up for us. We're not going to bother with the healing tower since with Fatal Smoke, as long as we've got Zephyr knocked out, we don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Kronya's just going to move in and knock out Henriette from this tile, which lets her fully charge Ruptured Sky. Since Henriette's out of the range of this 10 and baton from here, then Peony's just going to dance Kronya and let her knock out Mirabilis.
Yeah, yeah. You fool.
Which opens up
Why
a
not?
spot for her to sneak in
Time to kill.
and knock out Zephyr.
You're in my way.
And with Zephyr out of the way, Kronya shouldn't have any problems just vintage sweeping the rest of their team. So we'll just back Yuri up and say go. Bolt Tower, or Healing Tower doesn't get anything done, and nothing on their team has Hardy Bearing, so it's a pretty safe vantage sweep for Kronya from here.
Just a nuisance.
Gustav will get to significantly reduce the damage he takes from his first hit, but
You fool.
when he only has one hit point left, it's just not enough to keep him alive. And even though we only got to do 7 chip damage to Catria,
You're in my way.
she's not really the bulkiest target, and it's easy enough for Kronya to one-shot her. This match should be another pretty straightforward Kronya clear, with another Lilina who's going to get her Hardy Bearing turned off. They also have a plus 10 Eliwood over here, which is always fun to see. And a Brave Ike, who I haven't seen very often on defenses, but he can be surprisingly annoying to handle just because of how sturdy a melee unit he can be, especially when he's getting boosted by 3 different mythics for all of these extra stats. The Cleaner Tethys over in the corner is actually a pretty sneaky threat too, since combined with Wings of Mercy and Brave Ike, it's not unreasonable for her to be able to Wings of Mercy in and clean up an opponent after Ike whittles their health down, on top of Lilina's AoE and potentially Eliwood too. And the Wings of Light boosting a bonus weak thrice here does make her a lot spookier than she usually is. I don't think this should be too much trouble for us though. We should be able to clean things up pretty easily since they don't get Sniper Bolt Tower. And while this Ike will probably end up being a bit more of a pain than I'd like, by surviving a round of Vantage combat with Kronya,
Okay.
I don't think it should matter. Nice, found the bolt trap already. We're going to take this turn just to test out the traps. Okay, so this is the real trap. And then we'll
I'll
dance
do it.
Yuri,
My
and
warmest
dance
greetings.
Kronya,
Yeah,
and flip the
yeah.
Mary out of the way, and have Yuri move down here. And Thor can move up. We'll get
Yes.
Naga over here too, and say go. And from here, we're just going to shuffle everybody around a little bit,
Yeah, yeah. Close your eyes.
and clear out this bolt tower so we don't have to worry about it for the following turn. And
On
we'll
the
just
right
move
foot.
Peony down and
It's
let
where we
Naga
die.
jump over here to give Kronya some Dragon Slaying for next turn, and say go. The dance happens, but we don't get debuffed since we're very far out of range.
Yeah,
And now that the bolt
yeah.
tower's done its job, we'll move Kronya up and
A new
dance her to
dawn.
give her a few points more of defense and res, which will help since she's going to still tank this gifted magic and a round of combat with Ike,
Okay.
then have her knock out Ceros. Which which also means we don't have to worry about this healing tower thanks to Fatal Smoke. Then I'm just going to knock it down here,
Why not?
get Plumeria up into this corner to make sure that we're getting all of our attack buffs,
I won't disappoint.
and have Yuri start breaking his way towards his other Aether pot in the corner. From here, I think Lilina goes first, since she does actually get to do some damage to Kronya. But she doesn't get to
You fool!
punch through that Vantage, since she's too low on health. And, well, nobody else has Hardy Bearing at all, so
Just a nuisance.
it's easy enough for Kronya to just start sweeping things up.
Just a nuisance.
And after we clear out Eliwood, I should end up getting danced and not actually getting knocked out by Kronya. But Kronya does still have enough health to tank him for a round. And even though she won't knock him out here, she should still get him low enough for it to be an easy combat to clean up afterwards.
Just
Oh,
a nuisance.
no, actually she will knock him out. I underestimated her there. And since we don't actually have Ike to worry about, I think we can actually just go ahead and clean things up from here.
Yeah, yeah.
Smiting Kronya forwards lets her pick up an Aether pot and then
My
get
warmest
danced
greetings.
by Peony, thanks to Wings of Mercy.
I
And
seek
we
a
can
foe.
reposition Plumeria over to the
Where
left,
to, friend?
have Yuri break the healing tower, now that it's not actually going to get anything
I'll
done.
do it.
Dance him
I won't
to pick up her
disappoint.
second Aether pot,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
let Kronya move over and close out the match.
Just a nuisance.
That was a fun one. Let's see what we get next. This match is going to be a very fun one, mostly because our Bolt Tower doesn't actually end up hitting very many of their team. They've also got this Farsafe Hector to help keep people from doing too much with hit and run approaches. And this Catria, while she is an Astro Season and is very vulnerable to Elimine, can still be very threatening against people who don't bring Elimine to the field. There's also a fun little dance trap with Leaf and Sigurd here that does extend this threat range a little bit further than you might expect it to, which can have Mooseball rally forward and then open the map up before you're ready to start. Seeing Mooseball on a defense team at all is a fun thing too. I don't see him much, and I do think he's actually really solid, just thanks to the damage output Domain of Flame can give his teammates. And he can be very bulky with just his base kit as well. This match is going to be a bit more of an intricate clear than some of the others have been. And we're going to need to play this one step at a time and clear out a variety of structures and traps before we get things going. One of the bright sides is that we do have the safety fence surviving for this first turn, so we don't have to worry about the threat range extending until after this first turn,
By your will.
and that means we can get some shenanigans going with Yuri. I'm not actually going to break this tactic room, not yet at least,
Time to kill?
since it's more important to get Yuri
On
up
the
into
right
this
foot.
corner
Where to, friend?
and open up a safe spot for himself to stand next turn.
Close
And here
your
we'll just dance
eyes.
Thor,
They
move her
will
down here,
submit.
and say go. We're out of the range here, so the safety fence kicks in and we don't have to worry about it. This turn we do have to be careful about where we're ending up standing, since we don't want the map to start before this bolt tower goes off. And that means we need to make
This'll
sure
be
that
fun.
Yuri opens up the Dark Shrine and then takes its recently vacated tile.
A
Also
new
move Peony
dawn.
down here one tile
seek a
and Thor
foe.
down one space too. And then end turn again. Sigurd moves into dance, but nothing else happens since we're still out of range.
I
And
won't
now
disappoint.
we're going to foul play Peony all the way up here. And Kanto back forward as well. He should be fine here for later.
Will be done.
Then we'll smite Kronya over,
They will
reposition
submit.
her forwards, and she should be able to step
Yeah.
forward here and barely one-shot this Hector. And with Hector out of the way, it should be a lot easier to
My warmest
start
greetings.
cleaning things up. We'll dance Kronya and have her move here to knock out Sigurd.
Guess you wanna die. Why
And
not?
then dance her one more time with Lumeria
Time to kill.
to move forward and knock out Leaf. This does mean we're giving up the
You're in
defense
my
tile
way.
to both Ceres and Mistpool here, but she should be able to carve through them thanks to the effective damage she's getting from Naga.
Just a nuisance.
Ceres goes down first, since she has the least health to lose. And then Catria moves next, even though this does mean that
Guess you wanna die.
Mistpool ends up getting even less defenses to work with, thanks to that distant guard. And Mistpool moves in last, but thanks to the pruning we did on the structures on the side, he doesn't have quite
You're in my way.
as much bulk as he would normally have, and it's easy enough for Kronya to finish him off. The tactic room is being a little bit annoying,
Where
since
to,
Yuri
friend?
can't get to these pots right away, but since we have
I
both
won't
dancers
disappoint.
nearby, it's not so
do
bad.
it.
We'll just dance him once after he
This'll be
clears the
fun.
gravity effect off and pick up one pot,
A new
and dance him one more time, pick
I
up the
won't
second one,
disappoint.
and let Kronya close out the match. Without taking damage this time.
Just a nuisance.
That one was a really fun one to plan out. This match is going to be another neat one. They've got some spooky stuff on this team, including a in-season legendary Sigurd, and this bonus week young Ike, and this plus 10 maxed out Edelgard, who tragically isn't actually using an anima blessing on this team, which means she's a lot less scary than she should be when there are 3 mythics to boost her stats. Wings of Light boosted Thraciers, a pretty reasonable threat as well. Then Duma and the Catapult are pretty good at covering 2 of the common safety fence lanes as well as potential bolt tower lanes. And a Dancer Sigurd in the back to help enable this duo's hindrance and just catch up with Wings of Mercy and Dancing. There's a lot of threat on this team, even if it is a fairly basic layout, and it does a good enough job, I think, of spreading out the team so that they don't all get hit by a bolt tower even if it does actually fire and not get sniped by either of these. I was a bit worried for Kronya since we don't actually get to clip Edelgard with bolt tower, and she is one of the very resilient targets on this enemy team. But I think we've got this figured out, as long as we play this carefully. We're going to take the first couple of turns, as usual, to just break some structures and work our way into position. And I do need to make sure that we be careful of this Sigurd's threat range, since he is going to be able to threaten this tile and this magic trap next turn.
Close your eyes.
So we're just going to make sure that we're not standing in his attack range and break this last structure. Okay, we found a 3
My
bolt
warmest
trap,
greetings.
and then get Yuri out of here.
This'll be
And then
fun.
break another statue while we're on our way out. And then wait, Naga's not going to move here since she wants to move on to Peony's tile for this next turn. From here we just need to test one more trap before we're ready to get things going. And we found it. Good. And we're just going to dance Kronya
Yeah.
and move her right back down into position.
A new
And
dawn.
Maria can move over here. Breaking this doesn't actually do much.
It will be done.
It just opens up another path for Yuri to
Where to,
potentially
friend?
reach a pot after this turn. And from here, now that we've set up an attack tactic for Kronya and gotten all the structures cleared out, and even found both of the real traps, we can get things going. We'll reposition Kronya forwards
This'll
here
be
and then
fun.
have Yuri foul play Peony into position, and then just Kanto him over to the right. Kronya should be able to step forward and one-shot this Ike. Even with 40% damage reduction, it's not quite enough to blunt that down to being survivable. And then we can dance her forwards from here.
Yeah.
move in and take down Sigurd.
You're in my way.
And then use Flyer Formation to dance her one more time,
Okay.
and move in to take out Thracier.
You're in my way.
Tanking from here on this turn specifically is pretty important, since knocking Edelgard down by 7 hit points and making sure that she doesn't get this Armored Stride online means that she actually gets no benefit at all from this Ideal skill, which makes her much easier to knock out, even though Kronya will need to get 2 attacks in to finish her off. So we'll just move Naga up here and see if we did our math correctly. Sarah should be the first one to attack, yep. But without Hardy Bearing and with only 1 hit point remaining, Kronya is not going to have any problems cutting her down. Yep, and Edelgard moves in next, since she will survive this combat,
Just a nuisance.
but so will Kronya. And since Kronya survives, means that Edelgard is still Fatal Smoked. And once she's down below 25%,
Guess you wanna die.
and without the 40% damage reduction from her first combat, she's much easier to handle. And well, Sigurd is not having a good time with this,
Fool.
and Duma just can't reach us.
I
From
won't
here it should be
disappoint.
pretty easy to wrap things up and close out the match. Dancing and smiting your way forwards lets him pick
Where
up
to,
this Aether
friend?
pot on the side. And we can have
Yeah.
Kronya pick up the second one,
A new dawn.
dance her, and let her move in and close out the match. I'm looking forward to seeing what Duma's remix is.
You're in my way.
It should be something fun, I hope. This match is going to be a really interesting one. They've got a very impressive maxed out Marisa on the front line of their team. The Double Fury is a good way, combined with the Chill Res from Mirabilis, to help her avoid Elimine checks and make sure that her weapon's Timeless Pulse actually gets a chance to go off. The Res tactic doesn't affect Marisa, but it does affect this Catria, who's very kitted towards avoiding Elimine checks thanks to the Res asset and Fortress Def Res and Phantom Res, which effectively, thanks to Mirabilis, puts her up to an effective 62 Res as long as this Chill Res actually hits Elimine after the first turn, and makes the Triangle Attack and Orders buff very consistent for her teammates. This maxed out Felix is pretty fun to see too. I'm actually using a pretty similar build for him these days, and it's nice to see. This maxed out Julie is also very cool, and a lot like Marisa is using Fury to help dodge Elimines, especially on that first turn. And the combination of Infantry Pulse and Quickened Pulse doesn't actually fully charge any of these specials, but it does bring all of them down to 1 charge, and combined with the Infantry Rush from either Ceros or Marisa, means that they can disable an Aegis or Ice Mirror on the first swing and then hit for a fully charged special on the second one. This Jonkei is also very cool. Even if he's not plus 10, it's very hard to actually stop this Deadeye, since the combination of Desperation and Auto Follow-Up lets him punch through a lot of opponents that might usually be a problem. And overall, I honestly really like this team. The guard effects on Ceros and Marisa and Felix are a good way to help shut down Gale Force approaches too, and it can be very tricky to actually handle something like this if you're not bringing some pretty specific units to the field. Or just have a bolt tower that actually lands almost perfectly on their team. We're going to take a couple of turns to really get things going here. There's no rush, there's no dance trap on their team. Mirabilis can never actually reach Felix unless you open this wall up. But we'll just take our time and make sure we get our damage applied before we go in, and then get things started from there.
Time to kill.
They also don't really threaten too much
I
of the
seek a
map
foe.
in this corner, so it's
Why
not too
not?
hard for us to just work our way in here.
They will submit.
A new
And start
dawn.
setting up for the following turns.
Yeah.
Die.
I'm not too worried about having Takumi get his damage healed on Catria and and Jomke. The important part is just to do some extra damage to Julia, so that she's not too hard for Kronya to take out once we get things started. In this turn, we should just be able to move Plumeria over and Peony over. And we'll also move Takumi over one tile just to make sure that he also hits Felix for this next turn, since he won't have a chance to actually heal that damage before we get things started. Yep. And then from here, all our cannons fire, and we can get going.
By your will.
We'll have Thor reposition Kronya forwards and let her go and demolish this Felix. Then we'll dense her, and have her go after Marisa next.
Just a nuisance.
Then we'll dense her one more time, smite Thor forwards, and move her all the way up here to snipe Jonke and complete the Fatal Smoke Spectrum and dagger debuffs on everybody. And from here, she should just be able to sweep the rest of their team. Catria and Mirabilis should go first, yeah, since they only have 1 health left.
Guess you wanna die.
And, well, Julia and Ceres aren't going to give her any problems either.
Guess you wanna die.
Ceres moves in next. Can't actually get those attacks to land, thanks to Vantage.
You fool.
And the effective damage ruptured Sky. And then we just close things out with Julia.
You fool.
It's always fun to get a one-turn Vantage sweep like that. This match is going to be a fun one near the end of the week. They've got a very threatening setup here with this Lysithea and Dogger enabling Lysithea to threaten almost the entire map just on the first turn. Together with the duo Crom and Brave Erica in the corner, there's quite a lot of threat on this team, and it's hard to approach this safely thanks to the traps in the front here and the Fjorm covering them from ranged hit and run approaches. The Wings of Mercy from Ceros and Mirabilis, this Mirabilis with the Brave Sword, Life and Death, and Death Blow, and even an attack defense rain, actually give this team quite a lot more reach, especially in a Bolt Tower bonus week, when it's not unreasonable to expect that your team might drop to a low health total. The Null Follow-up and Ideal on Crom is a nice touch. While Ideal can get turned offline as long as he takes chip damage, he can turn it back online when he uses Change Fate or gets a dance effect from Mirabilis, so it's a little more consistent than it might look at first glance. And while the Erica in the corner isn't really going to get danced by Mirabilis, ever, she's mostly here as a safety measure against people who try to snipe one target and then wait in place. If you snipe Fjorm, say from this tile, Erica can actually reach you thanks to the Pathfinder from Dogger, which could be enough to catch people off guard. And leaving her in the corner here also means that if you do take care of most of her team, it's pretty likely that Erica ends up staying alive, and it can make it a little tricky to reach these Aether pots later. I think I've figured out a working strategy for this, though, and it's going to take a little bit of finagling to get this right. The first thing we're going to do is actually go after this healing tower, since we aren't going to be able to apply Fatal Smoke to everything here thanks to Fjorm and the threat range that they have. So making sure we take this out should help us out pretty significantly. From here, we're just going to Dense Fury, and Dense Kronya. And Kronya is going to pull Peony out of the threat range while Yuri just backs himself out. And Naga and Thor are just going to clean up the other side of the structures. Staying out of their threat range here is really important, since even though the safety fence turns their turn off, we don't want this map to start moving until we actually engage on it. And here, Kronya is going to break this lamp for us, and then we're going to dance her with Peony, which gives her an orders buff,
By
and
your will.
once Thor moves up a tile, lets her jump all the way over here. And then we'll just say go. Now that the bolt tower is fired, we're
This'll
going
be
to
fun.
move Yuri here
My warmest
and
greetings.
dents him. Then
They
have
will
Thor
submit.
flip Kronya forwards,
What
and
is
then
your
smite
desire?
Thor forwards as well.
Where to, friend?
Have Yuri swap Kronya onto this fake heavy trap, and move him down here,
Time to
and
kill.
then have Kronya take out Fjorm. And from here, we should actually be able
Close
to
your eyes.
end up vantage sweeping through everything except the Zeros, and the Zeros shouldn't actually be too much of a concern for Kronya thanks to the Dragon Slaying. She should also move in first here, yep. And can do a chunk of damage, but because we don't vantage her, this actually ends up getting a Ruptured Sky hit as well.
You're in my way.
And from here we should just start going down the health chain. Mirabilis should attack, yep, before Lysithea, since she has 1 hit point and Lysithea has 3. Which means that we never have to worry about Erica actually getting involved here. And once Dogger and Kron go in, we'll finish this turn with Lysithea.
Just a nuisance.
It's honestly really fun to use Kronya now that Hardy Bearing is a lot rarer to see on defenses.
You're in my way.
It just gives her one less thing to have to worry about. And with only Erica left, all that we really need to do is make sure we grab these pots before we close things out.
I seek a
Thor's
foe.
in easy range of this one, and we can
It will be done.
smite Yuri over this way,
I
then
won't
move Yuri
disappoint.
forward 1 space,
Why not?
and dance him.
This'll be
He'll
fun.
pick up this ether pot for us. And then we can have Kronya go to work on Erica.
You fool.
That was a fun match to plan out. This match should be a fun way to close out the week. I haven't seen too many plus 10 Ellywoods in the wild lately. He has fallen off quite a bit, but Lunge and Quickened Pulse Gale Force is a pretty decent way to still catch any non-near save enabled teams and pull them out of position. And there's also a pretty neat little trap here set up with the legendary Azura, who jumps forward with aerobatics to dance Leaf. And once she extends her threat range out to these tiles, Ellie would rally her and then get danced by Dorothea, and have access to a lot more of the map, which can definitely catch you off guard if you're not expecting the map to move forward like that. And of course, Guidance also lets Lucina jump past Azura onto this forest tile and also reach anything that Eliwood can hit on this side of the map. It is a little unfortunate to see Lucina without either of her remixed skills. It lowers her threat a lot, and it's a bit unfortunate just to see that. Dorothea does give them a nice spectrum of chills to work with, and Ceros and Thracier are always solid for boosting their team's stats. As well as Leaf, even if he's not doing too much else just yet. These two both really... I'm looking forward to seeing what they get for their remixes. It should be fun. As is, I don't think this should be too much of a problem for us to handle, although we are going to need to play carefully around these threat ranges while we wait for the bolt tower to go off. Kronya is just going to open things up on this first turn for us, and we'll be able to
What is your desire?
smite Yuri forward to test
Where
2
to,
traps in 1 turn. And neither of them are real.
A new
We'll also
dawn.
dance Thor
Close your eyes.
and Yuri,
This'll be
and
fun.
have him break this too.
I
And
seek
Thor will
a
just
foe.
move here. Nothing happens on this first turn, so we don't have to worry about Kronya activating the map.
I won't
And
disappoint.
here we're going to swap Thor into position and let Yuri Kanto this way,
Oh,
and move
I'll
Plumeria
do it.
over here,
Time to kill.
Kronya here,
On the right
and
foot.
Peony here. And we'll wait. We'll be out of Azura's threat range here, so other than her, the rest of the map should stay still.
Where
From
to,
here we should be
friend?
able to get things going. We're going to swap Thor all the way up and into position, and then
Yes.
smite Kronya forwards, and she'll be able to take out Zero without any issues. Even without having taken damage, and with the defense tile, Zero's still just a little too fragile for that. And we'll dance Kronya and have her move over here and take out Zeros.
You fool.
And that should be enough for her to vantage her way through the rest of this team.
My warmest greetings.
So we'll also dance here at me,
Where to,
and have him move up here and take out this tactic room for us. Even if it does look like he's in the threat range this turn, it's only because of Azura's movement buff, and Leaf won't have that for this coming turn. So we'll just say go. And from here, they just start going down the health chain. Dorothea has 1 hit point to lose, so moves in first. And Eliwood should go next. Which also means that they don't have that extra distant guard for the defense tile in Leaf. And he should go next, and, very helpfully, do even more damage to Lucina. Oh, that's right, because he didn't get a chance to attack. Oops. It's okay. She still has more than enough damage to punch through Lucina, and Thracier can't quite reach us. And then from here we can close things out. Yuri can pick up these ether pots without any issues, and
This'll be fun.
let Kronya move in
They will submit.
Time to kill?
to close out the match.
Just a nuisance.
This was another really fun week overall. It's been a little too long since I took Kronya off the bench, and it's fun to see her doing this well with some Bolt Tower support. I do think the Bolt Tower makes her a lot more consistent than she might be otherwise, since it can be hard for her to punch through some of the near-safe tanks without that extra damage. I do have a Discord server if you'd like to hang out and chat. There's a link in the description, and there's also a Patreon page there too if you'd like to help support the channel. As always, I hope you've enjoyed the video, good luck with your own matches, and I'll see you next time.